Hello, my name is Emanuel and I'm a director at STR, a co-star company. Welcome to this week's video on UK hotel performance. As I predicted at the end of last week's video, a typical British summer would soon be upon us, and the heatwave certainly feels like a long time ago now as the rain lashes down. So the question is, has the change in weather impacted performance across those holiday destinations enjoying the summer of the staycation? We will investigate that along with London as the capital continues to struggle to drive demand. Looking at our standard occupancy slide, this week sees no movement when compared to last. The pattern is consistent with weekend peaks. It is worth mentioning that this is the first week since hotels could reopen at the beginning of July that we have seen no week-on-week increase in occupancy. Please note that this slide and all data, unless specifically detailed, is only for those hotels that are open and reporting data to STR. Moving to ADR, and declines year on year are 0.5 percentage points stronger than last week. This week's decline was 29%, and of course this is still very significant. So, with very little movement in either occupancy or ADR, naturally, RevPAR declines have remained static. The daily RevPAR falls in the past week have been between 57 and 64%. It has been several months now since I looked at the performance of hotels by class across the UK. However, nothing has really changed in recent months. Unsurprisingly, the pattern across all classes of hotels is still weekday troughs and weekend peaks. And we also see that the lower the class of hotel, the higher the occupancy. Luxury hotels, with the exception of the weekend peak, are seeing occupancy percentage levels in the low 30s compared to mid-scale and economy hotels who are operating in the low 50s. Drilling down to look at the key cities across the country, and the divide once again is very stark. Across the south coast, as well as Blackpool, York and Inverness, the gateway to the Highlands, occupancy levels are all above 70%. Compare that to London and Manchester, who are both below 30%. It is worth noting that Manchester's occupancy has fallen since the local lockdown was introduced across the city. Birmingham is also struggling with occupancy of just 32%. As previously mentioned, the lack of any corporate, MICE or international demand has meant that our largest cities will continue to lag. Looking at other towns and cities that enjoy a large amount of leisure demand, either directly or due to their proximity to the coast and country, we see this trend continue. Exeter last week saw occupancy of 88%, Portsmouth and Harrogate were at 81% and Eastbourne 78%. All of these markets are certainly enjoying the staycation boom. That story remains in regional destinations. Here we take the larger towns and cities out to showcase how the rest of the region is doing. The answer is very clear. Cumbria, the Lake District, North Wales, Norfolk, Suffolk, Devon, Cornwall and Dorset are all benefiting from the current situation, with occupancy levels last week of between 80 and 87%. As we know, however, not all news this week is positive, and London is the standout market which is suffering. London is of course a huge city, and STR tracks several sub-markets across the capital. On this chart, I've added in economic occupancy, which is taking into consideration full supply, not just supply that is open. And we can see many sub-markets still have significant amount of supply closed. This is the case more across central London, with Marylebone and Mayfair, Bloomsbury, Covent Garden and Soho, and Knightsbridge, Pimlico and Victoria all still waiting for many hotels to reopen their doors. It is also worth noting that there is a difference in occupancy between Suburbia and central London. The suburbs to the east of London saw reporting occupancy of 52% last week, compared to just 10% in Marylebone and Mayfair. The lack of key demand drivers for the centre of London becomes ever more evident when looking at this slide. So another week has passed, and the story for UK hotels remains the same. As we approach the end of the school summer holidays, It will be interesting to see if leisure-driven markets continue to achieve such high occupancy figures, and also whether the start of autumn brings more demand back to our city centres. STR will, as always, be there to bring you the very latest market trends and data. Thank you very much for watching, and be well.